So now we're going to use our knowledge of trigonometric identities and rewrite the following expressions in terms of sine and cosine. Once we rewrite them in terms of sine and cosine, we are going to simplify the expression. Let's begin. So we have sine of theta times cosecant of theta minus cotangent of theta times tangent of theta. The first thing that we want to do is rewrite everything in terms of sine and cosine. So what I'm going to do is take this function or this expression, and I'm going to turn the cosecant of theta and the tangent of theta into their identity. Remember, cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So I'm going to rewrite it as the identity 1 over sine theta. Okay, so I have sine theta times 1 over sine theta minus cosine of theta. And I'm going to rewrite tangent as its identity, which is sine of theta over cosine of theta. From here, I will simplify the expression. Notice that the sine of theta is outside of the parentheses, and this is telling me, it's screaming that I need to multiply this in to every term. Okay? Before I multiply that in, though, I'm noticing something else too. It looks like I can go ahead and cancel out these cosines right now. A cosine of theta times a sine of theta over a cosine of theta in the denominator would cancel. So let's just cancel those out now. And then we'll go ahead and multiply sine of theta in through the parentheses. So I have 1 sine theta minus sine theta. Okay, here we go. So if I multiply this in, I will end up with sine of theta times 1 over sine of theta. So notice those actually will cancel out, and those will equal 1. So because I would have a sine of theta over sine of theta, so that would be 1. And if I multiply the next one, I would have a minus sine of theta times sine of theta. Well, that is just sine squared of theta. And so we are done. We have now rewritten this and simplified this in terms of sines and cosine. Now, I want you guys to take this a step further. Notice over here, I've rewritten it as 1 minus sine squared of theta. And I just want to go back to the Pythagorean identity real quick. We have the Pythagorean identity, which says that cosine squared of theta plus sine squared of theta is equal to 1. Let's see what happens when we subtract sine squared of theta over to the other side. Notice when we subtract sine squared of theta to the other side, we end up with cosine squared of theta. The sine squares of theta cancel, and it equals to 1 minus sine squared of theta. So just doing this one action on our Pythagorean identity, we realize that the cosine squared of theta itself equals 1 minus sine squared of theta. So our expression that we simplified is really just a fancy way of saying cosine squared of theta.